Hello students and welcome to this A1 Institute Explainer. We're going to dive right into the rise of nationalism in Europe, and our goal today is simple: to get you completely exam ready. But hey, before we get started, just take a quick second to like, share, and subscribe to the A1 Institute channel. Seriously, it's the best way to make sure you never miss out on any of our essential study guides. Alright, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the massive idea that came out of the French Revolution. Then, we'll see how Napoleon spread that idea all over Europe. After that, we'll dig into the rise of liberalism, and finally, check out how the old guard tried to fight back. It's the perfect roadmap to help you revise.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1. We're going all the way back to 1789, a year that totally flipped the script on how people thought about power and who should have it.
You know, this right here is the absolute heart of the matter. Before 1789, the thinking was simple. The king is the state. That's it. But the French Revolution just shattered that idea. It said no, sovereignty, real political power, belongs to the citizens. They are the nation, and they will decide its future. So how did they make this big, abstract idea of the nation actually feel real to people? Well, it wasn't just talk. They took real, practical steps. They brought in powerful new symbols, like the tricolor flag. They introduced new concepts like la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen. They even created uniform laws and promoted a common language, all in an effort to build a single, shared French identity.
Now, let's move on, because this explosive idea of nationalism didn't just stay in France, oh no. It got carried across the rest of Europe by one of the most complicated and fascinating figures in all of history, Napoleon Bonaparte.
And Napoleon, wow, what a contradiction. On the one hand, he actually destroyed democracy in France and made himself emperor. But on the other hand, as his armies marched across Europe, they brought with them all these modern revolutionary principles, and they tore down the old, outdated feudal systems everywhere they went.
Okay, pay close attention to this slide because the Napoleonic Code from 1804 is a huge topic for your exams. This thing was a complete game changer. It got rid of all privileges based on birth, it made everyone equal in the eyes of the law, it protected property rights, and it totally got rid of the feudal system, freeing peasants from serfdom. This was a massive administrative overhaul for Europe.
But it wasn't all good news. As this slide shows, the excitement about Napoleon being a liberator didn't last very long. Pretty soon, the people in the conquered territories realized that these modern ideas came with a high price. We're talking increased taxes, harsh censorship, and being forced to join the French army to fight Napoleon's wars. Now, all this massive change sweeping across the continent created the perfect breeding ground for a powerful new ideology to really take root, especially among the new rising middle classes.
And that ideology was liberalism. So what did it stand for? Well, at its core, it was about freedom for the individual and equality for everybody before the law. Politically, liberals wanted to get rid of autocracy and aristocratic privilege and create governments based on consent. Economically, they wanted free markets.
In the economic world, though, liberals were facing total chaos. Just take the German-speaking lands for an example. After Napoleon, what was left was this messy patchwork of 39 separate states.
And let me tell you, this patchwork was a complete nightmare for doing business. Every single one of those 39 states had its own currency, its own system of weights and measures. Imagine being a merchant in 1833. To get your goods from Hamburg to Nuremberg, you'd have to cross 11 different customs borders and pay a 5% tax at each one. It was a ridiculously inefficient system.
Okay, here is another term you absolutely need to know for your exams: the Zollverein. This was a customs union kicked off by Prussia in 1834, and it was a total game changer. It got rid of most of those internal tariffs and cut down the number of currencies from over 30 to just 2. You can really see how this economic union started building the very idea of a national union.
But, as you can imagine, all these revolutionary ideas, nationalism, liberalism, absolutely terrified the old ruling monarchies of Europe. So after they finally defeated Napoleon in 1815, they were dead set on turning back the clock.
Their guiding philosophy was conservatism. Basically, conservatives believed that tradition was king. They wanted to preserve established institutions like the monarchy, the church, and existing social hierarchies. To them, rapid change was dangerous, and they wanted to put the old order back together again.
So here's how it all went down. Napoleon suffers his final defeat at Waterloo in 1815. This clears the way for the big powers, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, to all meet at the Congress of Vienna to try and redraw the map of Europe.
The main goal of the Congress, which was led by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich, was pretty simple. Put the monarchs that Napoleon had kicked out back on their thrones and stamp out these dangerous revolutionary ideas. They even set up a bunch of new states around France's borders just to keep it contained.
Now, what's really crucial to get here is that this new conservative order was built on repression. These new regimes were autocratic, meaning they had absolute power. They couldn't stand any criticism, and they brought in tough censorship laws to control what was said in newspapers, books, and even plays.
And this, right here, is the main takeaway from this whole section. The conservatives in 1815, well, they could censor books and they could shut down plays, but what they couldn't do was erase the memory of the French Revolution. The ideas of liberty and nationhood had been let loose, and even though they were pushed underground, these ideas would fuel revolutions for the next 100 years.
So, if you really want to master this chapter and get ready for your exams with exclusive notes and our expert guidance, please get in touch with us at A1 Institute. You'll find our phone number and all the other details you need right down there in the description. Thanks for joining us for this explainer. Definitely keep an eye out for the next part of this chapter, where we'll continue the incredible story of nationalism in Europe. We'll see you then.